Welcome back, everyone. Mindy here with you today for Neat and Tangled. And in today's card, I'm going to be creating this one-layer scene using some stencils from Neat and Tangled and also the fairies from To the Stars. I thought these would look really cute as little girls playing at the beach. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to first start off my card by stamping out my images. So I am using two stamp sets for this. The first one is To the Stars. This was recently released in the April 2019 release. So I'm stamping out a couple of the fairies and some of these really cute puffy clouds. I am using Neenah Solar White cardstock in 80 pound. And then I'm inking up my images with the Gina K Amalgam ink. This is Copic friendly, watercolor safe, anything you need, it is safe for. I'm going to be using my Copic markers, so that is why I chose it. The next set that I'm going to be using is Beach Day, and this has some really cute elements on here to go with my summer beach scene that I was picturing. So I picked out the sand castle and a little sand bucket. There's a little seagull and then the star on there, and there's also a flag, but I didn't end up using that flag. It ended up just being too big in proportion to my fairies. So I do color it, but I'm not going to end up using it. I'm going to dive right in and do the coloring, and I apologize. Some reason my camera had froze while I was filming the skin coloring, so I apologize that that's not here, but I do have the rest of the footage. And I'm going into the hairs where you're seeing here. I do use the same colors for both girls when it comes to the hair. I will have all of those colors that I'm using for the Copic markers listed down below, and then I will also have them listed over on my blog, so you're always free to reference that. I'm just going with a dark brown hair. This is just a great go-to combo for me to use when I'm coloring brown hair. My daughter has brown hair, so it's just kind of natural for me to grab these colors and easier to keep the hair colors the same for me. Next, I'll move into the sandcastle, and I'm using E35, E33, E31, and E30. I didn't start with those right away. I think it was I added in the E33. And I do use some tip-to-tip marker coloring if a color wasn't blending well for me. And what that is I'm taking, for instance, an E33, and I'll take my E31 marker and just kind of pick up some color off of the tip of the marker. And then that just helps blend. So if you're having a hard time blending between colors, that is a really good way to do it, is that tip-to-tip blending. You're just picking up color from that darker marker you had used and picking it up with the lighter marker. I've done it a few times, and it just helps that transition a little bit better. It doesn't contaminate your tips. You can rub it off on scratch paper if you're doing some really dark colors and it doesn't seem to be coloring off, so you can always go off on some scratch paper afterwards to clean up your marker tip a little bit. For the clouds, I'm just using two colors, so B01 and B000, just adding a little bit of shading to the bottom and to one side and then blending out, and I'm leaving the majority of the clouds white. I just wanted to have a little bit of shading there. Now for the outfits, I'm using a green combination here for one of them. I'm not going to color in each individual stripe. I'm just adding my darkest area to the left-hand side and then making the brighter area on the right. And I'll do the opposite for this little girl in the purple dress. So for her, the darkest area is on the right, lightest area is on the left. I wasn't quite sure at this point where they were going to sit on my card, but I just kind of wanted to have a contrasting area to them. Then I'm going to come in and I'll color the sand bucket, just adding some really nice bright colors, a little bit of shading to the right-hand side of the bucket with the R59, and a little bit on my flag on my sand castle. And I do come in here and I'm coloring in this larger flag. I wanted to try and show that it was waving in the wind. So I'm actually going to add an R59 right in the middle as kind of a shadow point where the flag would dip in. I don't usually color flags that way, but I thought it was something really neat to try, and I think it gave a really great effect. I will save this in my stamp pouch for a future card just in case I need it. And then I'll come in and I'll start coloring my little bird. I wanted to have a couple different colors for the bird, so I did W8 and W6 on the wing, just a little bit of color there. And then W2 and W0 for the body. And I don't go too far out. I do leave the front part of the bird white. And on the sun, I'm going to have the darkest part of my sun be in that bottom left-hand side corner, and I'm going to leave a little sunspot there in the top. And you can see I'm doing just a little bit of that tip-to-tip coloring there. Once my coloring is all done, I'm going to take the coordinating dies for each set. I'm going to hold them in place with some low-tack Post-it tape, and then I'll run these through my die cutting machine. So I know I said this was a one-layer card, and actually what I meant was more of a one-layer background. This was really easy to do. This is the Landscape Due Stencil, and you can see the way I have it lined up there. These fit together like a little puzzle, and that's going to be really useful for us. So what I did is I actually sprayed the back of these stencils with some pixie spray, which is just a really nice spray adhesive. It doesn't really smell. You let it sit for a minute and it's tacky on the back. And that just helps hold your stencils down. So if you have some really intricate stencils, this stuff works really great for it. So I lined this first part of the stencil up with the bottom of my card. I'm blocking off or masking off the top of that with some Post-it tape just so I don't get this brown ink up top. That's going to be my water and my sky. So I came in and I ink blended this portion with some Antique Linen Distress Oxide, and then I'm bringing in Gathered Twig at the bottom. I wanted to leave a highlight area on my sand towards the top because if the sun is shining down, it's going to be lighter at the top of those sand dunes. So I'm just bringing in that Gathered Twig and adding that towards the bottom. And these just make a really great combo blend for sand. I've definitely used these colors quite a few times. Then to add a little bit of texture to the sand, I just took that Gathered Twigs, smushed it down onto my glass mat there off on the side, spritzed it with water, and I'll pick it up with a paintbrush. And if you tap the paintbrush, you're going to get bigger spots or bigger splashes of this. And what I like to do for the finer textured look or the finer spots, I'm flicking this off of the edge of an acrylic block, and this is just going to add some really nice texture to our sand background. So once I have that done, I'm going to just wipe up my mess. I'm going to wipe up my stencil just a little bit because I couldn't really see how much water I had on there. So I want to wipe that up just a little bit so I don't ruin my background. And then I can peel up that Post-it tape, and that's going to reveal our sand. So I'll just peel that back. You can see my cardstock looks great. That pixie spray worked really well. Now I'm taking the other part of this Landscape Duel, and you can see this lines up perfectly with that sand. So give these a try. This is really great for making backgrounds. And I'm just lining that up a little bit down. I don't want to have a white line when I start ink blending, so just be careful and mindful of how you're lining that up. Once again, these were already sprayed with the pixie spray, so the stencil is sticking right to the cardstock. I'm just kind of blocking off that top portion with the Post-it tape again and laying down some tumbled glass first, and then I'll come in with the peacock feathers. Now, if you wanted to make that whole top portion a sky, you could actually just snip the edge of these stencils and it's still going to work great. I wanted to have a little bit of water there, and then I'm going to add a sky as well. So just to add a little bit of texture and character to my water, I brought in the Rice Paddies stencil and added peacock feathers on top of that, which I think this just looks really awesome for water. So then once again, I had just peeled up my stencil and my Post-it tape, and now I'm going to work on my sky. So again, grabbing some Post-it tape, and don't worry, I do save these off on the side. The parts that don't have ink on them, I save off on the side to hold down any dies when I'm die cutting. So I'm starting off with my sky for Scattered Straw. This is just a really nice light muted yellow, adding it to the background. It didn't have to be perfectly blended. You can see I do have some white blotches in there. And then I come in with Fossilized Amber, which is a little bit darker of a yellow, and I'm just adding that to the baseline. And I'll ink blend that up just a little bit. It didn't have to be perfect all the way around. I kind of like that scattered look. So there we have a 1-layer background. So I was really happy. You could see I did a little finger tap dance there because I was really happy with how this turned out. So off screen, to save a little time, I did a little finagling and I lined up where I wanted all of my images to go. You can see I did cut that word summer, and I did die cut that 3 times because I'm going to add a little bit of dimension to that. Now that I know where everything is going to go, I'm really happy with the placement. I'm going to go ahead and just start attaching these with some liquid glue. As I started attaching them, I tried to move my clouds over just a little bit because it seemed really empty towards the middle of the card, but yet I didn't really have anything I wanted to add there. So the clouds I may have just adjusted a little bit to kind of fill that in. And then to add to the dimension, I'm just attaching these 3 layers together with some liquid glue. And I'm doing that on top of just some post-it, a little post-it note to kind of catch any of the excess glue and it doesn't get on top of my glass mat there. So that's just a time saver for me when it comes to cleanup. Now the last leg of the card is just going to add a little sentiment to the top there above summer. So I'm taking a scratch piece of black cardstock that I have and lining up this word hello. This is also off of the Beach Day stamp set. And I just prepped that cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, stamping my hello in some embossing ink, and then heat embossing with white alabaster embossing powder. And I just trimmed that down to a little strip, and I'm going to add that right above my summer. So that is going to finish up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and taking a look at the Landscape Due Stencil, which I thought was a really great stencil. Once you figure out how to use it, I hope this video helped you with that. And also using these fairies other than a night sky or up in the sky, I thought they were super cute to have them playing out at the beach, and I'm looking forward to summer and warmer weather. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.